Hey guys, Tom here from Metalloud, and I want to talk about something that I've kind of hinted at a few of in a few of my other reviews that I've done recently, and I did kind of mention it in a video I did a while back called of Ethics and Men, and it's kind of why I don't give review scores and why I don't really believe in giving albums a number. And the reason I'm talking about it today is because two particular albums that I just reviewed, In Writings, While You Were Away, and Bring Me the Horizons, That's the Spirit. And the reason I talk about that with those two albums, first I want to talk about In Writing specifically, and that's because I don't really listen to a lot of that softer emotional indie rock that they have. I'm more into kind of the post-hardcore stuff, like Citizen or Basement even, things like that, that still kind of have that almost hardcore vibe to them while they're laying down those emotional lyrics and things. So my experience with the genre, well, that specific portion of the genre and with that band in general isn't a lot. I don't have a ton of experience in there. So writing that review, it kind of was hard for me to express how I was feeling about that album and about that band, just because I don't have much experience to draw from with them. I don't really know what to say about that. And, while I did enjoy it, it's just difficult for me to express myself with that because I don't actually know a lot of other bands like that. I don't know a lot of other tropes of that genre, of that thing to kind of say whether this is good or bad. And it's kind of why I did that ending part to that review, why there's an extended edition of the review. And it also brings me to Bring Me the Horizons, That's the Spirit, because the other part to it, as far as why I don't give review scores, which I'll get to in a little bit, is the Bring Me the Horizon one. It really depends how you look at it. I liked it. It was a great album to me, but I could see how somebody who's used to Bring Me the Horizon's sound may not enjoy that too much, as far as them going in kind of a poppy territory and, incorporating those electronic and EDM influences into their work and kind of, staying away from their metalcore roots and just getting into kind of just pure hard rock at times. And if I was a reviewer and I was so entrenched in that Bring Me the Horizon sound, I probably would give That's the Spirit a very low score simply based on that I couldn't get past that change in sound. Whether it's a good album or not, or whether these are enjoyable songs or not, I personally wouldn't be able to get past that, and I'd probably end up rating it low. Me personally speaking, I did enjoy it, so I probably would have given it a better score. But I also kind of like to see myself as somebody who can at least look past that, looking for that I guess nostalgia of trying for that band to have that same sound that they did previously. And I feel it's a problem for a lot of bands and a lot of reviewers. Say Anything comes to mind with, every reviewer always kind of attacking them for not sounding like Is It Real Boy. Every review, and maybe my own included, because I kind of have to address that, it kind of always returns into, well, this is an okay album, but it's not Is a Real Boy. And I can imagine that really sucks for a band to read stuff like that, like, okay, we get it, you like that album, but we did other stuff too, and this is music that we're really pouring our heart into. If it's bad, it's bad, but don't say it's bad because it's not this. And that kind of brings me to the review scores. As I mentioned with Bring Me the Horizon, if I was in that mentality of, I can't get past that it doesn't sound like, it doesn't sound like Suicide Season, so 3 out of 10 because of that. Regardless of how, the album may have actually been good, I never gave it a chance. Or In Writing, where I don't have a lot of experience with that, it can go either way. My lack of experience with it may have kind of influenced whether I liked it maybe more than I would have if I had experienced other bands in the genre, or I may not have liked it as much if I had heard other bands in the genre. I may have heard that might have been my favorite genre, and I might listen to In Writing and say, wow, they've really kind of hit it at the top. So I don't think it's really fair of me to kind of give a review score based on that, because it's purely subjective and purely my opinion on things. And I know a review is subjective, I know a review is your opinion on things, and that's what people are looking for, but I think you kind of have to give some context to that opinion, and a review score does not do that. Somebody who's looking at it and looks at a review score is going to say, 3 out of 10 and say, okay, it's a bad album, I'm not going to listen to it. And I think a lot of people do that, particularly with I'm not going to call anybody out, but there's a certain website that I think people kind of really latch onto a little bit too much, and there's a certain YouTube reviewer who I like as a reviewer, but I just think that people kind of take his word as gospel and take his scores as just, the word of the Lord, and basically they'll form their opinion around the opinions they get from these people or from this website. And I think a lot of times people are just looking at the actual score itself and not listening to what they're saying, and I don't think that's fair to the bands. I don't think that's fair to the listeners as well. If you're just looking at review scores, you're probably dismissing a lot of good music simply because that particular reviewer may not have enjoyed that album or something. If you get somebody who only listens to bluegrass music and you get them to review, let's say 303 for instance, they're probably going to hate it. More than likely they're going to give them, poor score. But if you actually read the review, you'd probably get that sense that they don't really listen to that, and they probably don't like that to begin with, and they're going in with that kind of prejudice about them where, it's not bluegrass, it's not good music, kind of that mentality. It's just kind of an anecdote. I'm not really calling out bluegrass fans or anything like that. I actually do like bluegrass, but that's neither here nor there. Just a hypothetical example of why review scores can really be a bad thing, and why they really don't tell the whole story, and why you really need to read reviews. And that kind of is why I refuse to do review scores on my site, because I don't think it's fair to the audience, and I don't think it's fair to me, or I don't think it's fair to the bands either. It's really not fair to anybody to give a review score. And I'm not trying to criticize any outlets that do give review scores. I understand their purpose. I understand why they exist. I just don't happen to believe that they are necessary for a review site or for a review in general. And I really wish more people would start reading reviews or watching reviews and listening to what people actually have to say, instead of just looking at the scores and making their decision based off of that score. And that said, read a couple reviews. You shouldn't be just looking at one review and saying, well, this has to be a good album because every reviewer out there has given it a great score, or the opposite, this has to be a terrible album because these reviewers that I like, rated it terribly. And I understand you're going to find reviewers that you probably share your taste with, and you're probably going to grow to trust them with their musical taste, but you're not going to be 100% with everyone all the time. It just unfortunately doesn't work like that. We live in the real world. I'm going to like albums that you're probably not going to like. I'm going to hate albums that you're probably going to love. So, I'm honestly saying this. Don't just trust my opinion on things. I appreciate it, and definitely, take it into consideration. But don't just rely on something. If I say an album's not good, I don't, expect you to go out there and tell everyone, oh, this album sucks because, he said this album sucks, or this album's great because he said this album is great. I don't expect that from my viewers, and I don't think really anybody does. But, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but bringing it back around to review scores, that's kind of what review scores do, is they just kind of polarize people, and they really don't give people a chance to experience something that they may otherwise either like or dislike as well. So what do you guys feel about review scores? Do you think I'm right with my feelings on that? Do you agree, disagree, whatever? I always want to hear from you. Leave a comment down below, and be sure to check out my other videos and my reviews.